Chief Executive Officer of the Hempire Agric Ghana, Nana Kwaku Agyemang, has petitioned the government to accelerate the passing of legislation to enable the cultivation of industrial cannabis to help solve the pollution of the country's water bodies. Speaking at a press conference held in Accra, Nana Kwaku Agyemang stated that despite the law being passed in 2020, there is a need of urgency to fast-track the act to enable local farmers to acquire licenses to engage in the cannabis cultivation. He said there has been challenges in the country's major economic sectors, such as the oil and gas, the mining industry, and the paramount of it all is the issue surrounding the European Union likely to put embargo on the cocoa production, which would be a big blow to the country. Hence, if the ban is lifted, the industrial hemp is going to second all the aforementioned sectors to boost the economy. Aside the economic benefit, Nana Kwaku Agyemang noted that the hemp can serve several purposes such as medicine to cure so many diseases like epilepsy, asthma, headache, among others.
But first of all, let me remind you that the law on cannabis was changed and became an act. It was no more a bill. On the 20th of March 2020, it was passed in Parliament. And on the 11th of May, it received presidential assent by our number one man of the country, the President of the Republic of Ghana. Now, where we are now, we are awaiting the passing of the legislative instrument, which is basically the regulations. It will tell you who you can apply to, who will be testing your products if you get a license, what the fee will be, etc., etc., etc. And that's supposed to be going through Parliament. But there's been a delay because of the COVID. And of course, initially the MPs had fisticuffs, then the COVID. They came back for a little while, and now they're back on a break. So once they come back, I anticipate that they will expedite the passing of the legislative instrument as quickly as possible, opening the doors for our local farmers to submit applications to the Narcotic Control Commission to be considered for the approval of licenses to cultivate industrial hemp. We would plead to the government at this stage to ensure that amidst all the other challenges that they have, that they take this one very seriously and that they look to expedite it very quickly, because we call it a hempvolution, because that's what's going to happen. It's akin to the Industrial Revolution that took place many, many decades ago. This is going to change the living standards and the lifestyles of Ghanaians from the village of Zini right the way down to Nzelezu. So we don't have to get this wrong. We believe that there have been challenges in the oil and gas sector. Ghana has become the loser. There has been challenges in the mining of precious minerals, especially gold and diamond too, which we don't hear a lot about. Ghana, once again, has been the loser. There has been issues about bauxites, and we've sold that off cheaply and conveniently to other expatriates, and once again, Ghana has become the loser. And now we hear on the issue of cocoa that the EU is saying that they are likely to ban Ghana imports of cocoa to the EU, and the Chinese have taken up the mantle and they have started to cultivate cocoa. But the crux and the irony of the whole thing is that the EU are saying that they're thinking of banning us because of galamsey. And then on the other hand, the kings and queens of galamsey are now growing cocoa. So once again, Ghana has lost. We say at HAG that Ghana mustn't lose with regards to this. Ghana mustn't lose with regards to the cultivation, the export, and the processing, manufacturing of cannabis sativa L, which is industrial hemp. Ghana mustn't be the loser. This is the people's business. It's not government's business. It's a business that belongs to the people, and the people of Ghana must stand up and stake their claim and their interest in such a hemp revolution. Now, apart from that, because we've spoken before about the economical benefits, I think that's all clear to everyone. We can see what's happening in New York, in Illinois, in Colorado, in Quebec, Holland, Portugal, Germany, Israel. We can see what's happening there. And on our continent, Lesotho was kicked off, and they've started cultivation of marijuana proper, but they're only exporting it and they're not utilizing it themselves in their own country, and that's a shame for Lesotho. Zimbabwe are also on a similar track. Malawi have done interesting things as well. We can see that the world is changing, and the way that the West used to demonize cannabis is not how they're doing now. They're not demonizing it, but we are still holding on to what the West has taught us about our own plant. That's what they've taught us about our own plant. It's so bad that we call it names like Bonsam Tower. And all these things should stop. We need to recognize how important this is for Ghana and Ghanaians and grasp it. Throw off the yoke of what was put across us for so very long and release the herb. So in terms of the environment, because I want to focus on that, because we know there's going to be economic benefits. Yeah, we know also that medicinally it's also good for a number of issues. Let's say autism, epilepsy, asthma. It's a painkiller. It's anti-inflammatory. So we know all.
Nana Kwaku Agyemang further stated that once the law is passed, they are going to work with the Forestry Commission to plant the hemps along the banks of all the polluted rivers to reclaim the district line for a better living.
These things, but what I think is we don't pay enough interest to the environment, and we certainly don't know that the cultivation of hemp can lead us to the reclamation of lands that have been poisoned very long time ago by people who were mining for gold. And so I want to look at that, because lots of our land has been rendered useless, cannot be used again, and we challenge them. We say that's not true. We say that once we get a license, if we can talk to the Forestry Commission and they can work alongside us, then all the lands that have been intoxicated with poison, we can help the Forestry Commission and the government of Ghana reclaim all those lands by doing one simple thing: the cultivation of cannabis sativa L, industrial hemp. And once we start cultivating cannabis on those lands, over a period of time, you will see that we begin to reclaim the land once again. The farmers who were dispossessed of those lands for peanuts can now go back on those lands and start cultivating food crops that we need to not only feed ourselves, but to even feed our neighbours, and in some cases the rest of the world. And it's very important that we understand this, because we have a Minister of Lands and all that, and they're giving us lip service. And it's not just them. We've had lip service when it comes to land for a very long time, throughout both political parties. They're both the same. They're both the same. They have no real ideas on how we can reclaim the land, and so it's just there. In some cases, the pits are very big and people fall in there when it's full of rainwater and they drown. Nobody does anything. Now is the time to ensure that we take the necessary action. Let us push through the legislative instrument as fast as we can, so that we can start to issue licenses to companies like myself, who have Ghana at heart. As a Ghanaian, I have Ghana and Ghanaians at heart. We need to start reclaiming those lands, and the way that we can reclaim those lands is through the cultivation of hemp.
on the part of misconception of its negative effects. The chief executive officer expressed worry why Ghanaians caught a plant that was created by God to serve a purpose as the devil's tobacco, but can't say the same to alcohol, which is even Peter reads most.
It threatens that. But I wouldn't underestimate our farmers, especially those that have been cultivating illegally for some time. Don't underestimate them. But the fact of the matter is that is one way in which it could go towards fighting illicit cultivation. That's just one way. It's not the main way, it's just one way. Yes, it would have an impact on that. But as I said, I could ask you a question, why do you want to minimize people smoking cannabis anyway? You see? And so that opens up a whole new discussion, which I don't think, to be honest with you, you are ready for yet. You're not ready for it. Ghanaians ain't ready for it in general. The media, you're not ready for it at all. You're not, because you are guided by perceptions that have been manufactured by the West, where the West have demonized it and we have picked it up. In our own culture, in our own language, we will say Bonsam. How? How can we say that? Is it not a green plant that we saw growing there? Is it not something that God has provided there? We are saying Bonsam. But we don't say these things about alcohol, which many a medical practitioner can say that the consumption of alcohol in large quantities has an effect on the mind. Quite clearly, we all know this. You can't see, you can't stand, you're wobbling, your speech is slurred, etc., etc., etc. But is that the same for the consumption of cannabis? Is it the same? And why is it we can allow adults to decide if